Yo guys, what's going on? We're down here in the Rack Studios, down here in Tampa, Florida, me and my boy Mike G. And we got Wayne Hurnham, former SF officer in the military. And we're here to talk about leadership today and just talk about, how things have changed. Wayne, how are you doing down there in Stuttgart, Germany?
Fantastic. I was in the Black Forest last weekend and made sure I was over here this weekend. I'm looking out from my third floor of this house that was built in 1507, 10 years before Martin Luther nailed his thesis to the church doors, and 100 years before Jamestown was founded. And there's snow covering all the rooftops here.
Oh,
and
so
I can look out into the Black Forest.
So is it snowing now in Germany?
It's just barely snowing right now, but we had snow all week, starting at Sunday or Monday when I was driving back from the Black Forest. Got caught in the snow, and it snowed every day here, except yesterday.
Hey, you know what? But that's Europe, and it's like that vibrant thing of being able to go to the cafe, have some glühwein, or have you a good old cappuccino, and just relax. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Hey, so Wayne, give us a background to the audience, kind of like what's your background, and then you have a huge history. So kind of and I'll let you explain your last job after the military because it's better for you to explain it.
Okay.
But so let's hear your journey real quick.
Okay, when Vince says I had a huge history, I guess he just means I'm old as dirt. That's what that means. But actually, I came in the military at a time when Vietnam was winding down. But a lot of my senior leaders and even junior leaders, I had World War II vets in leadership positions, Korean War vets, and almost everyone was a Vietnam vet. So I got some incredibly good training on the tactical nature. And with the generals, I really learned a lot from looking at them about how senior leaders can make such a big difference in an organization. And primarily, you're talking, I would be talking about General Croson, who ended up commanding all the forces in Europe and the vice chief of staff of the army. He was the guy that the Baader-Meinhof gang tried to assassinate up in Heidelberg. And
80s, right?
Pardon?
It was in the 80s, correct?
Right, in the 80s. And he was the first general that I actually observed. And I had a great opportunity in the fact that his son-in-law was one of my company commanders, and we're still friends. And so I ended up having dinner with him just a couple of years ago before he died. And he fought in the Colmar pocket, which is just across the Rhine River here, about 5 kilometers south of Audie Murphy, 10 kilometers south of Tony Bennett, when Tony Bennett was private Antonio Benedetto. So it was, I really had some great opportunities to learn. And also from a General Tackaberry and a General Malloy. And General Malloy was probably the best with transformational management that I've seen. But I worked with a lot of great NCOs, great officers, great senior leaders, and just picked up a little bit of, I guess you'd say, the combination to the safe on how to run large organizations by learning from this colonel and this general and this sergeant, this warrant officer. I had one warrant officer who was just an incredible leader. But I learned a lot from my cadets also, as you know.
Yes. Hey, so, as you talk about your transition, so you did how many years in the military?
Well, I did 20. I was 6 years as enlisted, went as a staff sergeant to officer candidate school, then Ranger school, then went right back to the 82nd Airborne Division, spent another couple of years there and moved down the road to Special Forces. I went off to Hawaii in an infantry assignment, did 3 years there. And then I came to ROTC at Georgia Southern College at the time, Georgia Southern University, when Irk Russell was running things there, and did my time there. And then I got an assignment to Germany and got into position of an operations officer with the 1st Battalion Special Forces, 10th Special Forces Group, 2 weeks before Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, and we were locked down and then deployed. We spent time doing the combat search and rescue of all the aircraft that were expected to be shot down in northern Iraq. And so we did the combat search and rescue force in the north. And then we came back to Germany for 1 week and then got sent right back in to run the Kurdish refugee camps. We had about 200,000 Kurds we were responsible for in 4 different camps. When we got there, they were dying at about 100 a day.
Wow.
And we stemmed the flow. It was, we delivered babies, gave shots.
Was it starvation? Yeah,
Pardon?
I didn't mean to cut you off. Was it starvation?
A lot of it was dysentery. It was dysentery because they were not people who normally lived outside. They were pharmacists. They were city dwellers, and they had moved into this area, and they got to the border, weren't allowed to cross the border. So they set up a tent city. And unfortunately, they were collecting their water from areas that was also the drainage of the sewage. And so they were dying of dysentery and all sorts of things. So we brought in a lot of fresh water initially and food and started treating them. And so it was an incredible experience. I was the operations officer, then the XO during this time, and the teams that were led by captains and sergeants and warrant officers, the NCOs, they were the ones who actually made the big difference. They were the ones delivering the food, delivering the supplies. The medics were treating the young children. We had babies who couldn't blink because they were so dehydrated from not having water. You would pinch their skin and it would stay up. Women had quit lactating because of lack of water. So there was a lot of work. That was probably the most fulfilling thing that we did during my Cold War experience of being in the military. And then right after that, I got sent to Command and General Staff School at Fort Leavenworth. I retired at Leavenworth, but 12 years later, I got called back to write the Army's field manual for personnel recovery, which was how the term combat search and rescue had kind of morphed into what's called personnel recovery or rescue operations. And I've been doing that ever since 2004 until 2019. I was asked to move over to a different directorate in UCOM headquarters and help with the senior leader education, the general officers, the flag officers, the senior executive service personnel. So that's basically what I've been doing, helping teach and educate senior leaders and new officers who are coming into the organization.
All right, so if you watch this evolution of leadership, and you've written doctrine. So when you're writing doctrine, you've watched it evolve. Because I go back to air-land battle, and then I go. So I'm dating myself, and then I go back to the common task manuals that we had back in the day in Big Berth and all the other different books. So if you see this evolution, the thing is, we are over inundated with information now. So how are you handling this situation now? Is that back in the day we had like a manual and it was you could kind of cookie cutter the manual to get where you have to be. Now we have information coming at 100 miles an hour.
Yes. And one of the things we do in the exercise program, and I work under the exercise directorate, is to, when we do injects into exercises, we give a number of injects that don't really matter. And then there's one little nugget in there. So part of the training is to sift through all the information and sort and find those things that are really important for the senior leaders to know about. But I guess the biggest change I've seen, there was a program called the Command Information Program, and the commanders were expected to get up in front of their soldiers, their Marine sailors, and say, this is an important subject. You know, it could be operational security or sexual harassment, whatever it is. The commander was expected to be the voice of that program, and so that everyone knew the commander endorses this. Nowadays, and this is probably one of my pet peeves, we have like an online leadership. It's, you know, the information for many organizations is only through the joint knowledge online system, and the only metric that the senior leaders I'd say the mid-range leaders are looking at is, has everybody done their training?
Right.
They're not points. Yeah, they're not reinforcing the actual content. They just want to make sure everybody's gotten their training done. And a lot of that is because you're so inundated with, I mean, we were busy, but the busy now is just, you know, times 10. So especially over here, you know, we've been supporting, you know, our partner nations in war.
Right. Yes,
so we're staying pretty busy here.
You know, but you know, you bring up a great point, and even with corporate America, that's some of the things that I'm seeing is that, you know, we've gotten online training because somebody thought that was a great idea coming 2002, 2003, right. And then COVID kind of reinforced it. But when you start looking at it, I'm going to go backwards to when you were training me, and the on hands part and the activity of repeating repetition habits and rituals. Oh. Right. As a commander, when I was in, I saw that was a lost thing. I saw the fact that when we actually said, "Hey, we got to read a map," but there were certain skill sets I still believe that, not just for the infantry, that overall as a common everyday service member, I think there are certain traits and abilities you should inherently have for the position, because you're in the business of being dropped somewhere in a foreign country to be able to exercise the national defense, the needs of the national strategy. And I see some challenges in that. And so when you look at these young officers now, and you know, you see the the glaze on their face because they're like trying to figure it out. And it's like we shortcutted some things when online, and I think some things we actually need to back up. So as you've seen this now, how are you helping in the area of where you work with leadership and kind of, you know, mentoring those younger NCOs and officers?
Well, that's a good question, and I appreciate an opportunity to talk about it. And one of my, just because we run these exercises that have a long lead in, we have several conferences for the actual exercise. The exercise is only 2 weeks, but it's a year to 18 months to 24 months of preparing for this, getting the syndicates together, and, you know, trying to help them understand this is how you manage complex, long range, multiple projects, which each one of the exercises a project. It's very difficult because most of these officers and senior NCOs, they were raised after 9/11 in back-to-back combat assignments, and your focus was, the fight, and not learning basic skills that were contracted out during the fight. The maintenance, how to develop a maintenance program, how to develop a mentor program for your troops, how to run a professional development program, because there so much is online training, so much as well, they'll get that in their professional military education or their joint military education. Right. But the program that we had in Hawaii, you ended up with about 6 weeks of additional education and training. Some of it was technical in your field, some of it was non-technical, and you could do this in the corporate world too. You bring in the person who's going to teach you how to read financial statements, although you're in sales, or production management. Here's how the production line works, and this is why we have to have certain lead times. You could develop a great professional development program, and over the course of a year, your people would be getting 6.5 weeks worth of additional training on how to run the machinery, how to read financial statements, how to get better in sales, whatever their particular job is. And that's what we did. We had 2 hours every 2 weeks. That was our professional development. Some of that was technical, some of it non-technical. We had 1 hour with our boss. Each person had 1 hour with the boss every week on here's how you need to increase your skill set in managing and planning training. Plus any of the big projects, he would always start with the after action report starts now. So you were expected to be looking for improvements all through, just like Lean Six Sigma, always looking for incremental improvements. So I was lucky in that I worked for several of these key people, because other organizations I went to, I didn't see that happening until I brought it from my part of my baggage.
Right.
And they had not seen it before. And it's even today, I mean, even at CENTCOM, when we were working together at CENTCOM and here at UCOM, there are a lot of things that you don't see anymore that could really improve things.
Right,
Not that people aren't working hard and doing great things. I mean,
no, you're great.
Yeah.
You're right. We all grind. Me and Mike talk about this all the time, and it comes down to knowing what your boss wants, right, Mike?
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, I think communication in today's age is that we're over inundated with email, and that I don't see a lot of face-to-face communication. And I, as a leader myself, I had to stop myself multiple times to be able to communicate with my staff effectively and say, okay, stop me, let's talk about this. So, I mean, for your standpoint, you're talking about exercises, or you're talking about implementing a lot of different mechanisms at one time to, shape the battlefield. So how are you managing it as yourself, as you looked at with this 30 or 40 year period? Yeah. How are you starting to go, all right, so your leadership style has had to change. So how have you adapted and became more innovative?
Yeah, well, and I want to quickly go back to the COVID time. We were locked down, so we had every conference that you run nowadays, and every meeting, like a senior leader seminar, every meeting that you have, plus the schedule that people are having to execute nowadays, you always had to have a backup. Okay, these people are going to be in the room. These people are going to participate by some sort of video teleconference. And you had to do that. And you have to bring in your NATO partners and your other partners who aren't part of NATO so you've got the communications link ups are significant nowadays. Instead of just everybody come down to the office, our conference room, we're going to have a meeting. You can't do that because people are scattered all over the country, and are back in the States, or they're downrange, and you've got to link all these people together. So you've got that going. But a lot of things that we do, we will look at what we're doing, what kind of plans we have, and we will develop some themes and topics for the senior leaders to discuss. And we'll put injects in so that the senior leaders have to make decisions, but the decision's really not so important as the process of getting the information from the action officers down at the bottom level of the swim lanes up to the decision and guidance level of the general officers and the flag officers. So what we work toward is to make sure that they provide a more robust and well thought out analysis and recommendation so that when it gets to the senior leaders, it gets there faster. So they're doing we want them to do a better job of doing the analysis and developing their recommendations and getting it up to the senior leaders quickly. And that's really, we want to cut the times down as much as possible. And it's just like playing a musical instrument, learning the scales initially, or a soccer drill or basketball drill. You talk through it, you walk through it, you kind of half speed through it, full speed through it. You put some competition on the court, on the field, and see if your plan works as well as you thought it would. And you just keep doing the drills, just like immediate action drills when you're caught in an ambush, or or playing a musical instrument. You got to get your fingers on the keys and do it faster and faster until you have a comfort level. And that's what we try to do, is get them better and better.
All right. So have you always been with DOD, or did you ever, when you left the military, kind of branch out and go civilian a little bit and then go back?
I was working with New York Life Insurance Company from 94 up until I got called back to I got a call one day when I was living in Charleston, South Carolina. It was an office in the Pentagon saying, is this Wayne Hurd? Yes. We need you up here tonight. And I was like, I've been out for 12 years. And they said, yeah, we want you up here. And I was like, you might have the wrong guy. I've been out a long time. And they said, no, you're the guy. Get up here. And I was like, well, can it be tomorrow? Because I got to close down some things. And the guy on the other end of the line he sounded mad. He goes, yeah, make it early. And he hung up on me. And I had a name and a phone number to call. So I went up. But I also worked after I came back to Department of Defense. I got farmed out to the Drug Enforcement Administration for a couple of years too, teaching survival, evasion, resistance, and escape to the agents who were going downrange in Asia, South America, Iraq, Afghanistan. So that was a big thrill. It was a wonderful organization to work with. So yeah, I did a couple of years there in DEA also.
So you've been doing God, Wayne, you've been moving. You've worked on a lot of complex things, and so as you sit back now, right, and you have to reflect on all you've done so far, what advice or what kind of knowledge would you kind of give anybody out there that's sitting around, struggling with their place in the world, and you going through the life the way you are? Because one, where are you originally from? Let me get there real quick.
Right outside Atlanta, Georgia, actually. If you land on in the airport, Atlanta airport, you're probably landing on my neighborhood. It was when the airport expanded, they bought our neighborhood, bulldozed it, and built a runway on top of it. So I'm right there from College Park, Riverdale area, in the Atlanta area. That's where I'm from originally.
Oh, so you're living your best life because Georgia just won the national championship. You're at Georgia Southern when we were winning all the national championships.
That's right.
You lived your best life.
Absolutely.
So I'll reframe the question. And so as you look at this now and everything you've done and all the people that you've trained over the years, what imprint do you want to leave on this earth when St. Peter calls? But until then, what imprint did you want to leave?
Well, there's a great mentor. He mentored George Patton and Eisenhower, a guy named Fox Connor. I would kind of like to be known like a junior level Fox Connor with my cadets and other officers and NCOs that I've mentored. But, I'd really like to pass on the management lessons of like Robert L. Jackson, Croson, the Flohr and Katz, who were the two colonels. I worked on the project where we shut down an army base in Germany, closed it, and moved them lock, stock, and barrel to another base in Germany.
Was that Bad Toast?
Huge. a huge project management program. But the two really key leaders from that was a guy named Floor and Colonel Floor, Stan Floor, and Daryl Katz. Both of them are just exceptional. And a lot of the information that I pass on to people, that's where I learned it. Jackson, Floor, Katz. And so, I think I told you that my book has been recently approved by the Pentagon for publication.
Oh, so I didn't want to bring it up. So since you brought it up, name, title, we can talk about it, because I knew you had to go through to get it approved.
I've gotten it approved, and the working title, which may not be the one that comes out if I can ever find a publisher for it, is Planning Like Your Life Depends on It. And it's kind of an executive way of a Green Beret approach to mission analysis planning. And it's not just about military, but it's corporate level, doing SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, threats, opportunities and threats, .mil PF assessment like we do in the military, those kind of things to learn how to really take a hard look at whatever problem you're facing, and then develop a plan and how to execute that plan. Bossity, who was one of the General Electric executives, I think he took over Emerson as the CEO. He said, all the planning and everything is good, but the most important thing is execution, and to teach people how to execute well, because that's really what we have to do. Plans are really good, and you have to do those, but it's the execution. And so I'm hoping that that people will be able to take this knowledge and read. And I tell people, read a lot of books, ask for help, because there's a lot of even at junior levels, there's a lot of experience out there in your shop that, you got to tap into. You won't know 100%. You may know 100% when you're the squad leader or platoon leader, but or not even the platoon leader, but you may be the smartest guy. But when you go into an SF team, you're going to be the least skilled person on the team. If you're the officer.
That's true. Yeah, so on point, I'm tracking you on reading, because I had to knock all these out that I received from guests. So the other day I was going through it. You're absolutely right. You got to keep reading. Hey, Wayne, it has been great. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, well, we got one other thing. We have a sergeant major here, the new senior enlisted for UCOM. He started a reading program for the senior NCOs. Legacy was one of them, about the rugby team out of New Zealand. Right. 6 lessons, leadership lessons from D-Day. And so he's got a program. So it's a quarterly book club, and then the senior leaders, and he's invited me to participate in that. We meet in his office for a couple of hours, just talking about the issues, what we learned from the book, and then a lot of issues, how we can apply those to the issues that we face every day. But
you read is it the New Zealand or Australian rugby team?
It's the New Zealand rugby team, the ones.
Yes,
the Maoris.
That book is excellent, and I read it because it has a lot of nuggets in there about leadership. Yeah. So, hey, we know we're running out of time here, and we appreciate you coming on all the way from Stuttgart, and taking a break from that beautiful area.
I got to get out there now.
And with that being said, me and Mike G always say, sir, keep it rolling.
Hey, thanks so much, Vince. I really appreciate you.
You're welcome, sir.